Now, it's been some 14 years in the making, the Moriarty Tribunal report. It was set up in 1997, shortly after Bertie Ahern took office as Taoiseach, to investigate payments to politicians Charles Haughey and Michael Lowry. Today, its final report has been issued. Brian Dowling of our political staff has been following and tracking its progress through all the years. Brian, we'll come back to talk to you in some detail later on, but just remind listeners, if you would, what Moriarty was all about.
The Moriarty Tribunal effectively arose out of the McCracken Tribunal, and the McCracken Tribunal was initially started by, people might recall that back during the time of the Rainbow government in the mid-90s, there was a story broke by Sam Smith in the Irish Independent that substantial funds had been provided by Ben Dunn to Michael Lowry, and that set in motion the inquiry. But on foot of that, another story broke that Charles Haughey had got £1 million then from Ben Dunn. So the McCracken Tribunal investigated both of those payments. Subsequent to the McCracken Tribunal, there were further revelations, and the Moriarty Tribunal was established, this time to look in more detail at Charles Haughey's finances because of the Ansbacher accounts, the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. But it was also decided to have a more detailed investigation into the awarding of the ESAT Digiphone licence for the mobile phone at the time, amid allegations that there had been some improper or untoward interference with that process. And Michael Lowry was Minister at the time and oversaw that process as Minister and brought it to Cabinet when it reached finality. So because of his previous financial dealings with Ben Dunn and likewise with Charles Haughey, the Moriarty Tribunal came into being with a mandate to investigate any payments to either of the two politicians that might be seen to have been an influence upon them in the discharge of their duties.
And the payments to Mr. Haughey, they were all dealt with in a previous report.
That has been done over a year ago. The Tribunal reported on Charles Haughey and found that in fact he did receive vastly more payments than what we knew of the £1 million. I think in total it exceeded something like £6 million from a variety of sources, and it found that he had done favours, I think, in respect of Ben Dunn and taxation matters. So the Haughey element of this has been finished and concluded. And what we're now getting today is, if you like, the second part of the remit, the final report dealing with the ESAT mobile phone licence and Michael Lowry's role in that as Minister.
Okay, well now, Brian, I'll come back to you, but now let's have a summary of the report's main findings from Katrina Perry and Jonathan Finch.
The Tribunal finds that Michael Lowry, in the course of his ministerial office as Minister for Transport, Energy and Communications, by his acts and decisions conferred a benefit on Mr. Dennis O'Brien, who made payments to Mr. Lowry and who was also the source of money in accounts held in the name of and for the benefit of Michael Lowry.
The Tribunal report states that it is beyond doubt that Michael Lowry imparted substantive information to Dennis O'Brien which was of significant value and assistance to him in securing the licence.
The Tribunal finds that Michael Lowry's actions have cast a further shadow over this country's public life.
The report refers to Michael Lowry's cynical and venal abuse of office, his brazen refusal to acknowledge the impropriety of his financial arrangements with Dennis O'Brien and Ben Dunn, and his contemptuous disregard for his taxation obligations.
The report finds that Michael Lowry displayed qualities similar in nature to Charles Haughey. It also states that in separate governments of entirely different political composition, it was possible for Mr. Lowry and Mr. Haughey to show favour to wealthy or prominent individuals and in recompense obtain payments or other benefits to bring improper influence on public servants.
The Moriarty Tribunal report finds that Michael Lowry used a groundless rumour relating to the Persona consortium to his advantage. The rumour related to the assertion that if Persona won the contract, it would lead to a nest egg for a former prominent Fianna Fáil politician. The report says that Michael Lowry relayed this to the then Taoiseach, John Bruton, in endeavouring to convince him that there was no room for government discretion on his recommendation that ESAT Digiphone should be awarded the contract.
The report also finds that Michael Lowry displayed an appreciable interest in the process and had irregular interactions with interested parties at its most sensitive stages.
The report finds that Michael Lowry sought and received substantive information on emerging trends and made his preferences on the leading candidates known.
The report also says that Mr. Lowry bypassed his cabinet colleagues and thereby not only influenced but delivered the result that ESAT Digiphone had won the evaluation process, which ultimately led to licensing the award. The report describes these matters as elements of Michael Lowry's insidious and pervasive influence on the process.
The tribunal report says that the most pervasive and abusive instance of Michael Lowry's influence on the awarding of the mobile phone licence to ESAT Digiphone was his action in withdrawing time from the project group when they had requested an extension to their work because they were not convinced that ESAT Digiphone should be nominated as the winner.
The tribunal also finds that Michael Lowry deprived the government of its decision-making function. It describes Mr. Lowry as having a strategy of depriving government of an opportunity to scrutinise and review the results of the process.
The report states that Michael Lowry misled the party leaders as to the clarity and certainty of the results that he had recommended. The report finds that most reprehensibly, Mr. Lowry sought to overreach his own party leader, John Bruton, by intimating that the government should have no discretion in the matter.
The report states that Michael Lowry misled the party leader as to the clarity and certainty of the results that he had recommended. The report also finds that most reprehensibly, Mr. Lowry sought to overreach his own party leader, John Bruton, by intimating that the government should have no discretion in the matter.
The Moriarty Tribunal report has said the responsibility for Michael Lowry's breaching of confidentiality of the award process rested with him, but also with systemic failures within the government.
The report also finds that Dennis O'Brien had made or facilitated payments to Mr. Lowry of £147,000 sterling, £300,000 sterling, and a benefit equivalent to a payment in the form of Mr. O'Brien's support for a loan of £420,000 sterling. The value of those sums in today's terms is obviously well in excess of the amounts transferred at the various times mentioned in this report, it says.
The tribunal report finds that Michael Lowry sought to procure unwarranted rent increases over a 7-year period that would have improperly enriched Mr. Ben Dunn.
The report says that in advance of the closing date for the competition, ESAT Digiphone had available to it confidential information regarding the weighting matrix adopted by the project group that it was not entitled to have, and which could have conferred an advantage on the consortium. But the tribunal says it is unable to conclude how it got this information.
The tribunal report finds that a $50,000 donation made through Telenor was made on behalf of ESAT Digiphone to Fine Gael. The tribunal says it was regrettable that no disclosure whatsoever was made to a public tribunal of inquiry concerning the donation. The Moriarty Tribunal is satisfied, it says, that payments and other benefits were furnished by and on behalf of Dennis O'Brien to Michael Lowry, and that these were demonstrably referable to the acts and conduct of Mr. Lowry in regards to the mobile phone licence process that led to Dennis O'Brien's consortium ESAT Digiphone winning the licence.
So that's a summary of the conclusions of the Moriarty Tribunal report compiled by Katrina Perry and Jonathan Clinch.